here. Will this work? Do you think this will work? What do I got to like kiss it? Do? Yeah. I don't like microphones. I think I mentioned that on the last one. I'm not used to microphones. I don't like them. Is it 10 o'clock yet? 10 on the dot. I think I scared a bunch of people away the last time I talked because we have less people today. Well, maybe we have a lot of people online. That's what I'm gonna think positively and say that everybody's online because they couldn't come live. Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. It's good to see everybody today. I want to welcome everybody that is live, and I also want to welcome those that are online, live streaming, taking the time to kind of listen to our financial update. We did this back in May, and I think I mentioned before that I plan on doing these, or at least try to do these quarterly. And I think the next one that makes the most sense is in January to kind of go over the State of the Union, as you will, how we ended up doing for the 2022 budget year. And then we may also have some information about the 2023 budget, depending on when it is during the January month. If it's later in the month, we may have a 2023 budget already approved. So I think it's a good meeting to have then. So be on the lookout for that. Again, my name's Rich Headley. I'm the finance chair for the church. We do have a number of finance committee members here. If you guys would stand to be recognized like I made you do the last time. So we have live, why do you stand back up? We have Chris Burns here live, Mark Montgomery, who's my right-hand man as the treasurer for the finance committee. We have Ben Crew live, Staley Hester, and Jim Wallace. Thank you for all your work that you do for me. I wouldn't be able to do it without you guys. I want to also recognize some of the finance committee members that aren't here. They weren't able to join us. I know some of them are probably teaching, so I just want to make sure that everybody recognizes those folks. I'm sure they're familiar names for a lot of people. So Adam Alexander, I already introduced Ben and Chris. Jim Gresham is also on the finance committee. Dale Foster is on the finance committee. Dave Sheeler. And Nate Stevens. So if you want to ask questions about finances, ask them, not me. No, I'm kidding. But on behalf of the finance committee, I do want to thank the membership for all their support as we've come out of the pandemic, as we've had some challenges with office turnover personnel. And we're so thankful to have Linda Warman as our office manager. She's doing a fantastic job. She makes my life and Mark's life much easier. She's doing a fantastic job, and we want to thank her for that. And I thank our church family for coming together to get us through these challenges, because it's no small task to run a church as large as this church. And thank you very much to everybody, all the membership, for coming together and supporting one another throughout everything. We wouldn't be able to do it without you. Your contributions allow us to do the service of this church. Your contributions allow Trish to teach our children. Your contributions allow Jessica to teach our youth. Your contributions allow our youth to go on mission trips. So thank you so very much for everything that you guys really do. So like in my last presentation in May, well, let me just say this. In my last presentation in May, I did go over a little bit about the budget process. What I want to do is really not go over that in detail, but just say how important the estimate of giving statements that we're going to fill out here probably in the next few weeks. What is it? Stewardship campaign starts in a couple weeks. So I just want to emphasize how very much important those estimate of giving cards are for the Finance Committee to come up with an accurate budget. The more church members that fill those out, the better it is and the more accurate our budgets will be moving forward. So this is a plug for the annual stewardship campaign, just to, I don't know, plead with you to, if you've never filled one out before, fill one out, please. I know, I've had hesitations in the past about filling those out because then I feel obligated. And to a certain extent, maybe you are, but everybody has circumstances that occur, and certainly we may ask why you might not be contributing, but that doesn't mean that we are saying that you need to contribute. What I am trying to say is those estimate of giving cards are just what they say. They're estimates of giving, okay? So we're not going to hold you to the fire to give the amount that you say in the stewardship campaign. We may ask you why you're not. There could be changes of circumstances, and certainly we want to be aware of those circumstances, so Alan can talk to you. So please, don't be afraid to fill out those estimate of giving cards. Please fill them out with whatever number you feel is comfortable for your family. So that's just my plug for that. I certainly want to thank everybody for what they've already given to date. I want to just remind everybody that the approved budget for 2022 was $772,887. We handed those out in the May meeting. If people want to request to see the budget, you can email me, you can email the church office, you can email anybody on the Finance Committee, you can call us. If you want to see a copy of it, we can get you a copy of it. So back in May, we reviewed our status through April 30th. 4 months have passed, May through August. So today, what I'm going to do very briefly is review August 31st numbers. And I got to kind of turn around to look at this because I don't have it in front of me. So our cash balance, as you will see, in April 30th, it was $414,811. That's the combined between operating fund and restricted fund. As you can see, at the end, I'm just going to pull this out. At the end of August, we're a little lighter in the cash department by about $26,500. So we have some, we still have a good cash balance. This is a very good cash balance. It's better than, I know there's a lot of struggling other churches in our area. So we are blessed to have a good, strong cash balance. The major reason why we're down is restricted funds, and primarily just want to say that's primarily because at the end of April we had a large endowment balance in the restricted fund that we actually paid out to the endowment in May. That was about $10,875. And then some special offerings for UMCOR and World Hunger, about $6,900 of that $24,000 went to UMCOR and World Hunger. So we like to pay those out as quickly as we can. Because people provide contributions to those services in multiple months, we kind of let that balance build up a little bit and then pay it all out at once to people. So we also had some youth mission expenditures that came out and some property expenditures. So I'm not blaming it all on property, Ben, so. So that's our cash balance, $388,328 as of August 31st. Does anybody in the room have any questions about that? Again, I want to say how blessed we are to have a church that contributes to our mission. So the next slide. So the next slide is our church donations, contributions, however you want to term it. In the April 30th, the May meeting, I said that we were slightly behind budget by about $3,000, just a little over $3,000. We had budgeted $270,878. We actually collected $267,753. So we've had 4 months of activity since then, and we've collected $187,200 almost $12. But we had budgeted $205,630 almost $1. So behind about $18,419 from what we had budgeted. And I understand this 4-month period is usually a slow period for the church because it's the summer months. And we were actually doing fairly well through July with contributions. We were tracking just under budget, very similar to what we were tracking in April, maybe just slightly. I think it was around $5,000 less than budget. But August was an unusual month for us. It was not very good. And I think, and we kind of did some speculation in the finance committee, we just met last Tuesday, that there were a lot of folks that took late vacations in the August month. So perhaps that contributed to that August number being lower than we anticipated. We also noticed a trend that probably supports the fact that August was a little worse, is that last year it was kind of flip-flopped. July was worse than August. So maybe people were taking more vacations in July in 2021 versus August in 2022. So in any event, that leaves us with a deficit of about $21,500 off of budget. So we have a little bit of ground to make up as it relates to donations. Miscellaneous other is really just stuff that we can't budget for, and most of that is made up from memorial contributions. So that kind of helps to ease the pain as it relates to the deficit related to contributions. So we're short about $17,944 going into the latter part of the month. And we really do budget for most of our contributions coming in the last quarter of the year. That's really where a lot of our contributions come in. And remember, our budget's $772,887. So $458 less that, whatever that number is. I'm an accountant, but I'm not that good at math. So I have a 10 key that I use a lot. So in any event, we have some ground to make up on the donation side. Does anybody have any questions about donations? Anybody want me to explain anything else related to that? All right, so moving on to the next slide, operating expenses. So here's the good thing right here is because our ministry leaders are being good stewards with the money that we do have, we are ahead of budget as it relates to operating expenses. We are under budget. So I reported back in April that we were under budget by $27,361. We had budgeted $278,000 to be spent, and we only spent $250,730. So that's good. In the 4-month activity, we were still under budget. By about $5,000, just a little over $5,000. So overall, through August 31st, we're under budget on the expense side by $32,542. So that's a good thing. So we're being good stewards of the money that we have to make up for the fact that we're a little bit behind on the donation side. So as you can see, because we budget the last quarter to be our best quarter with respect to donations, we had budgeted that we would be behind net by about $46,557. But net, we're only behind $31,960. So we're ahead by about just under $15,000. So that's a good thing through August 31st. So I know that we're a little bit behind on the contribution side, but I want to thank everybody for the contributions that they have made to the church thus far this year. It's been a blessing for us. I do want to say that next month you'll be getting your quarterly contribution statements. So they'll be through September 30th. I would ask that everybody, all the membership, please take a look at those contribution statements, see where you stand relative to what you did estimate that you would give. And if folks primarily give during the December month, because that's a very popular month, that's our largest month of the year, maybe consider accelerating at least a portion of that giving to kind of close the gap that we have. That could be very helpful for us. And really, that's all I have as an update. Unless anybody has questions, we have a couple other folks that are going to speak. Jamie Sneed's going to speak with us as a representative of the Generosity Committee. And then Ben Crew will come up after that and give us a little bit of a property update as well. But I certainly want to thank everybody for all that they've given thus far and for all of your service to the church. It is truly a blessing to be a part of this church family. Thank you very much. Are there any questions before I give it off to Jamie?
Good morning. Actually, Rich, can I hand you those to pass? So not only is Linda very helpful to our finance committee, but she is also very gifted in helping do some design work for us. And so I am representative from the Generosity Committee. We have a few folks here from the Generosity Committee. If you are from the Generosity Committee, would you please stand? All right, so we have Janice and Rich. We also have, and I might forget somebody, we also have Dale Foster, Dave Sheeler, Dave Prosser, Ken Guerin. Who am I forgetting? Is that everybody? Okay. Our committee has been meeting for several months, looking at donations and also ways for our church to be able to show you as members how we are good stewards of your dollars that you give to the church, you entrust to the church leadership, to help run the ministries of our church. One of the things we did recently is we put together this brochure that was just passed along, and it details where you give your dollars as well as the ways that you can give your dollars. What Rich just finished talking about with our budget, that's our annual fund, and we would encourage you as you fill out your estimate of giving cards to consider the annual fund. That is what funds our ministries today, tomorrow, next week, next month. And by giving to the general fund, you are entrusting the church with those dollars to use in the most needed place possible. However, you can also give a designated gift if the children's ministry is something that is near and dear to your heart, or the youth ministry. That's a way for you to designate those dollars. But we would encourage you to consider the annual fund as you make your estimate of giving cards. There's also an opportunity to invest, contribute to our ministry ongoing. So not only to the operations for today and tomorrow, but years from now. We think about the chiller that is cooling this room this summer. That was made possible through our endowment. And so by giving to the church endowment, that would be a way for you to ensure that the life of this church lives on beyond just this operating budget. There are ways to give. Obviously, most of us give through our outright gifts. So that's cash, that's writing your check every month. That is however you go about doing that. But that's how most of us, the most common way that we give. But there are other ways that you can give as well, outlined in this ways to give section. Retirement funds, life insurance, and then bequests. It sounds complicated because we're talking about insurance agents, financial planners, and lawyers, right? But it does not need to be complicated. To give through your IRA and life insurance can be a simple call to your agent, your financial advisor, a simple form. I work for a nonprofit. I had a donor tell me it took 15 minutes. 15 minutes to make the phone call to get the form, 15 minutes to fill it out, or 5 minutes to fill it out, 5 minutes to send it back. So in 15 minutes, they were able to make a designation to their charity of choice. And you can do that as well for your church. Life insurance, similarly, it can be a 15-minute process, 5-minute call, 5 minutes to fill out the form, and 5 minutes to send it back. There are also ways that you can give, not just as a beneficiary, but through your current IRA, through designated minimum annual distributions. And that's probably a little bit more complicated than we want to talk about here, but something that you could talk to your financial advisor about and they could help you with. Last, I'll talk about charitable bequests. So that's a way for you after your lifetime to make sure that your legacy lives on in this church. And that's a call to your attorney, and they can help with your estate planning. And you can do that in any way that makes sense for your family. So that can be a dollar amount, a percentage that goes in your will that you would designate back to the church. And again, you can designate that as operating funds, or you can designate that to the endowment. That's your choice. I would encourage you to have those conversations with church leadership as well as your financial, tax, and life insurance advisors. Are there any questions about this? All right, I will turn it over to Ben then.
Good morning. I'm Ben Crew and property chair for this year. Frank Thomas Jr. is also part of the property committee. And as we're a big part of the budget each year and the maintenance of the church, we wanted to share some updates. And this is, like Rich mentioned, the second update for this year. First, I think we all ought to give Rich Headley a round of applause for his efforts and work. Thank you, Rich. There's always a tremendous amount of work that occurs on 4 slides that go up on the screen behind us, so thank you, Rich, for that. Secondly, most certainly want to thank Butch Johnson for his work. He and I are buddies on a weekly basis, and then hats off to these 2 gentlemen for making all this possible. So, talking through this, there's not a tremendous amount of change in the church, which from a property standpoint is good. And I thought I'd start out this morning with a couple of property jokes. I don't think any of these are gonna roll anyone onto the floor, but like if you could just give me a small smirk or something, that's really all I'm looking for this morning. So, as a landlord, the most laid-back renters I've ever had were a Chinese restaurant. They were low-main tenants. Second one, my neighbor always has their lawn sprinkler on. It's a source of constant irrigation. And then lastly, do you want to hear a roof joke? Sure, it's on the house. So I appreciate you all humoring me this morning to go through those. Thank you, thank you. As you know, the property committee has responsibility both on church grounds here and at the parsonage. And I'm going to start first with the parsonage. Each year, the SPR committee does an inspection with a handful of folks, including Alan, to walk through that particular property to identify any concerns, issue, or maintenance items that need to be addressed that year. And like most homes and the homes that we live in, this usually identifies some action items. This year, there were repairs related to both chimneys and multiple bathrooms in the home. But otherwise, the parsonage was found to be in great condition. And so I just want to share that you know, it's an asset of the church, and it's something that we provide to the senior minister and his family, and it's a great home, and we want to maintain that for years to come. Back to the main church grounds, you know, as far as our service providers, we continue with weekly cleaning from Goodwill, exterior landscape maintenance by Varsity Landscaping, and HVA services by Train. Yearly maintenance items that occur kind of once a year include carpet cleaning and waxing that were recently completed. And so there's many ongoing services that happen from a yearly standpoint, but those are kind of the big ones that are property related. Projecting forward, you know, there are needs, as we all know, over the next few years that aren't necessarily part of the operating budget. But we need to plan for those. We need to think about where we're going. Some of these are fun. Some of these aren't as fun. You know, one of the items from an HVAC standpoint, the chiller installation and what occurred there went about as well as it could. Obviously, there were monies that were put in from the endowment to pay for those. You know, thankfully, we did not have to use all of those, so there's leftover monies available should something else come up, which is great. We have two. So that's from a cooling standpoint. We have two very old aging boilers that are going to need to be addressed. Might be in 5 months, might be in 5 years. You just never know. But those are something that we need to be thinking about. One of the items that Butch and I have talked about recently are floor coverings. Most certainly the floor covering on the first floor in the preschool wing, and then also on the second floor by the adult classrooms. That carpet has seen a lot of use and a lot of love over the years, and we're getting to the point where we're going to need to update some of those floor coverings. Another investment that we want to make moving forward is extending Wi-Fi throughout the church. So it's in certain pockets of the church, but it creates some issues depending on where you are in the church and what you're trying to do as far as current operations. And then secondly, there's some multimedia investments that want to be made throughout the church, and obviously that requires Wi-Fi or hardwiring that happens. And then third, some of the other discussions are related to some of these exterior doors at certain parts of the church, because they're solid core doors. You can't see through them, so there's some security investments that we're looking at from that side, mainly starting from the preschool side and then working down this way. So we're investigating that as kind of items that we want to look for projecting forward. So based on current trends, you know, rising material and labor costs, some inflation items that are occurring, one of the items that we're looking at carefully is the expected increase in utility costs over the next 12 months, especially over the heating related to run-up gas. I think there's some significant increases that are forthcoming with that. So we want to be diligent in how we approach, you know, both reactive items where we have something going on that needs to be addressed immediately, or proactive items, which is kind of, you know, volunteer or aesthetic or something we need to do. And so, like many of us have mentioned this morning, fiscal responsibility is, as a top priority when it comes to that. We should all be very thankful for how great this facility is. It's a huge building. It's a lot of responsibility to take care of. And most importantly, it's unique to think about is before we moved, we lived right around the corner from the church, and this building does get used all throughout the week. And I think it's pretty neat that just because we may show up on Sundays, there's always something going on in this church, which I think is great in the way that it should be. Again, if you have any maintenance items and you see something that needs to be addressed, you can certainly come see me if you want to catch me. Or the better way to do it is to send a note to the church office, let them know about what's occurring, and we can handle that and address it the best way we can. So with that, are there any questions that I can answer this morning? Okay. Rich, do I turn it back over to you? Is this where I do the dance? Or? Okay. Well, with that, Alan, is there anything else to share? Okay. We appreciate everybody being here. Thanks for being with us online, and we'll see you at the next update.